bikini-clad Kasumi and a big pair of You're about to embark on games that have everyone from Senator Joe Lieberman to your grandmother up in arms. They're the most controversial games of all time. I hope you have the balls to hang because the hits the fan right now on Filter. I'm Diane Mizoda, and welcome to Filter, a hand-picked top 10 video game countdown as voted on by you, the viewer, at G4TV.com. Now, when I was a kid, I thought Pitfall Harry was hot and E.T. was rebellious. Well, a lot has changed since then. Today, gamers would rather pee on hookers than chase pellets and swing from vines. And thanks to that yearning, we have before you the most controversial games ever made. But before we get to your top 10 reasons to be a menace to society and gawk at scantily clad women, we cornered some of you to give us your take on what makes a game controversial. Let's see what you said.
A game's controversial when people talk about it, I think. I mean, whether it's violence, whether it's sex, a controversial game is one that people are interested in talking about it.
It's hard to say. I mean, it depends who's doing the judging. I mean, what I may think is controversial is certainly different from what other people might think is controversial. The games that get the most controversy are the ones with violence or sex. But there's not many of those games, so there's only a few that are really getting all the attention.
The thing that appeals to many gamers about controversial games is being able to do things in the game that you couldn't get away with in real life. And a game like Grand Theft Auto that involves sleeping with a prostitute, you get all the fun of the experience without having to worry about seeing the doctor for antibiotics afterwards.
The appeal of the games is, something you can't do in real life. Might as well do it. Blowing apart your neighbor, running over the old lady on the street. It's controversial, but hey, it's fun.
Do controversial games have an influence on society? I think to some degree, sure. I think much like a movie you watch or a TV show or a book you read, I think what you see in those games influence your views of the world to some degree. But I think it's all within the context.
Much like other forms of art and entertainment, those games that may be considered controversial are aimed at an adult audience, and that's the appeal of these games.
You play these games and you experience them as escapism and you realize that they're sort of alternate realities. So I think in the right context, they can be seen as sort of games that in some ways let you get aggression out inside of the game world instead of in the real world. I think they do have some impact, absolutely, but I don't think it's necessarily a correlation where, a violent game makes people more violent or a sexual game makes people think more sexually or anything like that. I think, they're entertainment experiences and should be treated as that.
Now it's time to get to the boobage. Let's face it, there are certain games you don't want your mom to know you're playing. Like a game that puts raunchy, bare-breasted women on BMX bikes and has you fantasizing about what it would be like to touch their hooters. BMX XXX is at 10.
BMX XXX was controversial because it included these sort of in-between scenes of these scores strippers that would basically strip for you inside of the game.
Here you're riding a bike. Oh, hey, there's some strippers.
Most people were attracted to the controversial aspects of it.
There were female topless bike riders and stuff like that inside the game. So they really just tried to shock you.
Toplessness, dogs humping, urination.
Swearing for no reason, and pimps and hookers and dog crap. Now why?
Controversy is great if it's on top of a great game, but if it's just controversy for the sake of controversy, gamers see through that and they didn't buy the game.
We go from the depths of a woman's anatomy to the depths of mortality. Carmageddon has everyone up in a hoo-ha because it rewards you for running down pedestrians. I say if you can't handle the heat, then get your fat out of the kitchen. Carmageddon blows up at number 9.
Carmageddon is a cool game, but it's blatantly controversial. It's just basically a driving game where you run people over for points. It's a funny game, it's got a morbid aspect, of course, to it. but it's so gimmicky, it's so fun.
Gruesome, and it was kind of old technology. What they were trying to do is going to come out more with the new technology. It was very ambitious.
Carmageddon was awesome. You could basically beat the game just by running over hundreds upon hundreds of people, blood splattering all over your car.
Carmageddon, one of my personal favorites, and that's again the graphic nature of the subject matter. I mean, being able to get extra points for stylistically splattering a pedestrian is pretty big.
Carmageddon allowed you to run over people, kind of like that great old movie Death Race 2000, and any game that allows you to do that, it's +5 in my book.
Sure, Carmageddon has the ethics of a dog-killing mailman, but don't forget about our favorite 4-letter pile of carnage, Doom. The game gained just as much notoriety for its graphics and gameplay as it did for its violence and gore. id Software's classic shooter upsets PTA moms everywhere, but who really gives a what they think? It's at 8.
Doom was really one of the first gameplay experiences that kind of put you, face first person into the action. It really was a revolutionary game.
Doom was, I think, controversial because it was just such a great game, and it was really, really visceral. It was a first-person action game with incredible graphics. And when you saw these incredible graphics, people said, hey, this is really realistic. And I think for some people, it was a little too realistic.
Doom was a controversial game because it was the first of its kind, first to shoot someone and have blood, first to see heads on a stick in a game. And but it was quickly followed up by a lot more of them, so it lost a lot of it.
The funny thing about Doom is that you were a guy going into hell and killing demons. id Software got numerous letters from religious groups being offended. No one grasped the concept that you were actually killing demons. That was the point. You were on God's side. It wasn't as controversial as people think.
If the regular version of Doom isn't offensive enough, you can always blow up Santa Claus, Barney, or Jesus thanks to mods. Just kidding about Jesus. If that doesn't turn you on, then you may want to go spend some personal time so you aren't so uptight. After the break, we have more cleavage than you can sink your teeth into, and we're going on a panty raid. Oh, so now you're interested. We'll be back.